Right, let me just fire this up first. This is going to be interesting. So this morning Allan is going to be riding my BMW GS because I'm convinced that that's what he needs, is a BMW GS, and I am riding his wife's Moto Guzzi 750.
Can I ask why you've got tape on your handle, on your mirrors?
Say that again.
Can I ask why you have sellotape on your mirrors?
Yeah, there's they were flopping about. They were flopping around, and I fixed them with gaffer tape. Right, let me just fire this up first. This is going to be interesting. So this morning Allan is going to be riding my BMW GS because I'm convinced that that's what he needs, is a BMW GS, and I am riding his wife's Moto Guzzi 750 for the first time ever, to see if I can get on with it. I'm convinced that the GS is perfect for him because he has trouble with his knees and just find it a little bit difficult riding certain types of bike. So yeah, let's see what he thinks. Of course, he's not going to be used to the kind of power he would get from the Ducati Diavol 1260, which he's used to riding. So he's going to be down on power on that. So he's obviously had to make some mental adjustments to the engine size and lower power level, and of course the fact that that's a single cylinder engine as well. Oh, looks like Allan's doing a bit of standing up riding. I haven't tried that one myself. He's up on the pedals. I think the thing to remember is, though, that, or point to make out, is that Allan's actually done off-roading. He's done an off-road course using those kind of bikes, actually. So in actual fact, he's probably more experienced at riding that kind of bike than I am. Just wondering, actually, whether that GS is the smallest engine size that Allan's ridden. Thinking about it. It's strange riding this Moto Guzzi. It's a strange sort of engine. It's got a lot of torque, heck of a lot of pull on it. Beautifully comfortable. It really is nice and comfy. But there's a heck of a lot of vibration compared to the bikes that I'm used to riding. And one thing I really noticed is it when you take your power off, when you take your hand off the throttle, if you like, it decelerates quite hard. There's a quite heavy sort of engine braking about it, but it's lovely and relaxing. Apparently this bike hasn't been ridden for a year now, so this will do it good to get it out and give it a little run. We're only going to go about 20 mile, enough to get the engine running, enough to get the oil going around it, because these bikes, you know, do need to be run. Of course, one thing I have noticed is no gear indicator on this. I'm used to having a gear indicator on all of my other bikes that tell me which gear I'm in. This one doesn't appear to do that. This is a good old-fashioned way of riding where you have to use your brain to work out which gear you're currently in. Allan seems pretty comfortable on that GS in front. Seems to be a nice riding position for him. So this Moto Guzzi V7, I think, Mark II, I think it is. It's quite a heavy bike actually. It is quite heavy compared to my bikes. Feels lovely, comfortable, soft on the road, quite nice. But there's a lot of weight in the engine, it feels. A lot of weight in the throttle as well, where when you sort of get a free revving engine like the one that's in my Ducati, for example, and even, to be fair, a little bit like the GS that Allan's riding up front there, they're quite light throttles. This one's a heavy throttle. It's like you're really pulling quite hard on the throttle to get a response from it. This particular one has got the Oxford heated grips fitted to it, just down here. But if you're riding in the winter, of course, not a bad idea. Although my friend Andy, who's a lifetime motorcycle rider, reckons actually you can sometimes be better off with handlebar grip covers, if you know what I mean, the handlebar covers, like I've got on the GS apparently, because they block the wind and keep your hands warm that way. But a nice little accessory. Maybe you need both handlebar covers and heated grips for the ultimate in warm hand comfort. This would meet with bang on with my short rides channel criteria of a great starter stroke intermediate bike, this, because you can get your feet down when you get to the traffic lights. It's comfortable, easy to ride, not too much or so much power that you can get yourself into trouble too easily, and yeah, good all round bike. Reminds me a little bit of a sort of a heavy version, an industrial version of the Trident that I rode last month actually. The Trident was sort of lighter, more free running. This is like almost feels like a industrial version of the Trident. Yeah, when you change down on the gears on this, you get that sudden sort of pullback. Hard to describe really. You've got to sort of try and work to get the revs matching the gear position when you change gear on this, because as I said, it feels such an industrial weighty sort of engine and gearbox that you've actually got to, you will feel the gearbox sort of pull you back a little bit, almost brake quite hard if you change down and you're not in the right gear. Yes, I'm sort of struggling to guess what gear I'm in now, because obviously I'm not used to, this is not a bike I've ridden before. I'm just using my sort of feel based on the feedback from the engine. Sure, it must be 6 gears on this. Oh yeah, lovely and easy to ride into corners and into islands, this thing. Oh yeah, it just ticks along. You sort of feel that engine just purring. It does tick along rather nicely. Now the engine's sort of warmed up a little bit, it does feel a lot sort of smoother. I said earlier it felt a bit industrial, but now it's warmed up and it's feeling really nice now. It's a lot smoother. It just needs to get some oil going around it, I think, and just get some temperature into it. And all of a sudden it's really smooth. Right, we should be able to stretch this a little bit now. Lovely. There she goes. Nice now. Now this bike has warmed up, it feels far smoother. That engine feels a lot smoother now. I think that's what it needs. This is fantastic. Getting the as expected wind blast, because there's no real windscreen on this. But it's beautifully comfortable. I was going and overtaking cars yesterday evening when we were out with the riding with a group, but it can be a bit of a hair-raising experience on the GS, whereas on something like this I could probably shoot straight past him. Lovely. This is lovely. Lovely, lovely, lovely. Yeah, it's lovely and warm now, this bike. It's got the temperature into it. Tell you what, it sounds good as well. Feels a little bit like, in fact starting to feel very much like riding the BMW 9T. Actually, when I rode that, it is starting to remind me of that BMW 9T that I rode a couple of months or so ago. It does feel very, very similar actually, in terms of it being quite comfortable, not too big, but quite heavy with the engine. Yeah, that's what it reminds me of. It's very BMW, this. Yeah, you could ride this for miles. I think the one thing that would be good on it, which is what I've done on the BMW, is a higher and bigger windshield, which would help with some of that wind blast if you wanted to do a long distance. I'll tell you what, it's a big old beast, that.
That was really very embarrassing.
Why?
Because there's a hole in the ground there. When I put my side stand down, I thought, I'm going over here.
Right. Funnily enough though, the side stand is so long on that, sometimes it's almost upright. So when we parked yesterday, Scott noticed it and he said, God, that bike looks almost like it's going to topple over the other way, and it's too long, believe it or not.
Not one of the hole in the ground, is it?
Yeah. Well, today could be the MV's last ride out on its current exhaust system, because I've had the local MV dealer call me this morning to say that the replacement exhaust for the current one has just arrived.